Hey y'all, what's good? Last night, I had a lot of work to do. I told you guys I think that I'm behind on work, and I decided to just do it on my own time. So I asked Jeria if she wanted to come over to get, she could study and I could get some work done. And she said yeah. So it was a whole event trying to pick her up yesterday because she was with her boyfriend, and I had to find her. And she was on campus at his school, and child, that was some work. And I'm texting her, telling her I'm here, and she don't say nothing. So finally, I call her. I'm like, girl, I'm here. Are you coming, or should I just go ahead and leave? And she's like, I'm here too. And I'm like, okay, well, I've never been here, so I don't know what that means. But anyway, she came, and we were on a mission to find ice cream. Specifically pumpkin ice cream, because I had some pumpkin donuts from work. Remember the ones I showed y'all? Well, those are so good if you warm them up in the oven for a minute. And I was trying to find some pumpkin ice cream, and I had gone to so many places trying to find it. Finally found it at Target. Well, we got the ice cream and eventually got back to my house. And I forgot that I had a meeting. Well, I had to go to church early this morning, like early service, because I had a meeting today. So I couldn't go to the regular service I normally go to. So I was like, I gotta go to church early this morning. Not my typical service, which means I woke up at 7 this morning, which means I could not be up with Jeria all night like I thought I would. I thought I was gonna be able to get a lot more work done than I did, which means it's gonna have to get done today. So after we studied and I painted her nails, I'm pretty sure that'll be the thumbnail I use for this video. We went to the gym, and then I took her back to campus. I got up, went to church, ran some errands, then went to my meeting. I'm just now leaving my meeting. My meeting was a friend. I call her a friend, but she's really more like a business associate, I guess is what I would call her. She says I'm her friend, but y'all ever had friends that, they're really, I don't even want to call her a friend. We're friendly, but I'm based on her payroll. She's an entrepreneur, and when she needs stuff, done that I'm good at, or that's kind of my area of expertise, that she knows that that's my area of expertise. That's what she calls me for, And so this was such a case. So she called me, she's starting a new company, and she called me to come to this meeting. Well, I go to the meeting. Meeting supposed to start at 11, y'all. I pull up into the parking lot at 10:56. And when I see where it is, I'm like, oh crap, this is a place where you gotta pay for parking. But when I pull up, she's in the parking lot too, and she's like, Kat, I didn't realize you had to pay for parking here, so we're actually gonna go somewhere else. And I'm like, okay. So it ends up, and the place where we were gonna have the meeting was a restaurant too. I mean, they offered food too. So we ended up changing locations, and we went somewhere else. But we're having this meeting, and as we're talking and discussing things, there's certain parts of this that I am in fact an expert on, which is so funny to me. Because I tend to, I guess, think kind of, I know y'all say this all the time, like, okay, oh shoot, now see why Siri told me to go the other way. Like, okay, you don't think enough of yourself, or blah, 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 whatever. But it was weird, like, seeing all these people defer to me about something. And, well, why this and why that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, and being able to answer these questions. That was interesting. And they were asking me, was I going to work there full-time or part-time? And I made it very clear, and she already knew this, that I'm not leaving my job, my career, to go work there, because, that's just not going to happen. I did that before when I worked for the Hypergamous Amy. I did that once. I worked for her more than once, but I left a job when she had called me to say, hey, I'm opening up this company, come work for me, and I did, and I didn't give notice. Not 2 weeks notice, and I quit. And then that very same job later on, she ended up owing me my last paycheck for a couple of years. And it's just like, I'm not leaving a stable job to go work for a person anymore. Especially, I don't even want to say especially not a Shaniqua, but I'm not doing that anymore. I learned the hard way that, I'm like, when you got a stable check coming and an entrepreneur says, oh, I'm going to start this company, good for you. I'll help in any way I can, but I'm not leaving my job. But the other people are. They're, one of the people they're also an entrepreneur, and they have their own company. And then there was this other guy, he has a regular, 9 to 5, and he's leaving his job. And when we were talking about things and kind of the standard and what things need to be done or whatever, it was interesting. I was trying to get, because I met her years ago, and I think when I kind of heard her story about how she became interested in this, because her background is something totally different. I had no idea that this woman, I guess I should have known, if she could put me on her payroll and all the different people she has on her payroll, then she must have some money. But she already has another company, and she says that's her bread and butter. Because I always wonder, like, how does she make money? Like, how can she afford to pay all of us? Y'all remember before, when, like, years ago when I started my channel, and y'all used to hear me say I had 3 jobs? That was one of my 3 jobs. And I used to, I just wonder, like, how does she make her money? And I still don't know what the name of her company is, where she makes her bread and butter. I know, kind of what they do. But I know one of her staff members that's out of state from where she used to live is still on payroll, and she lives there in the other state. So when she was explaining kind of how she got into this, and I was asking, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Go start over. And I was asking, that doesn't make sense. How did y'all go from A to Z? This story, you're going from A to Z. Where's the B to Y? And one of the partners, that's going to be there full time, he said something like, well, I'm sure it was said with more tact than that, or something. He said, but I like that. You just get to the point. And that's what I want to talk about, just getting to the point. It was a business meeting, and of course I was business-like or whatever, but I do like to get down to brass tacks. I like to move all the fluff, and I like to get down to the crux of something, or as a lot of people call it, the bottom line. And I often feel like if you ask people about stuff and it's not your business, instead of them just saying, oh, I'd rather not discuss it, or it's a private issue, or it's something I like to keep tight to the chest, they just say some nonsense, and you're just like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I said something about it, like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. So when she told me the story, I said, oh, okay, so this is how this was discovered. And she got into this industry from someone in her family talking about her to someone else, to one of, their friends, and basically telling one of their friends how much money she had. And I don't know how this relative knows how much money she had, but somehow this relative knew how much money she had and told a friend, and the friend was like, ask her to invest in my company. And, she looked at the books and everything, and she did invest in the company. And, she's a a serial entrepreneur, I guess. She has not only her own company, but she owns, she has ownership or equity in other companies. And she's a black woman. I love that. She just, and I don't know how she got her start. I don't know, but she's smart. She has multiple degrees, she does a lot. And it was just something. I know y'all are always, saying, okay, you should do this. Okay, you should do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's just always nice whenever I meet with her to sit with a black woman that's got it going on. You know what I mean? Like with the accomplishments, and knows how to handle business, and, that can like run circles around you, like literally. Like she's sitting at a table with me and 2 men, and, she owns these companies. She has this money that she, made in whatever her industry was, and is, and buying companies and doing this and doing that. And I you know, and when she was talking about what her goals are for her new company, I brought up the issue of ethics, which is one of the reasons I like her. Because we talk about stuff in the ethics behind it, the things we've seen, and the lack of ethics, and kind of what her goal is for herself to be able to do something, but also do it ethically. And that's just something we don't see a lot, unfortunately, in Black-owned businesses. It's like, yeah, everybody wants a bag, everybody wants to make money. But when it comes to us selling things to other people, I rarely hear or see anything about ethics involved. And that's something important to me. A lot of the Black community, you know, will say that they're church going, or that they're Christian, or that they love God, you know. But outside of church, I'm wondering, you know, what do you see of that behavior? If you have your own company, do you run it ethically? You know, and what does that mean to you if you do run it ethically? Or even if you work for someone else, do you do your job ethically? When you're there for those 8 hours, or however many hours you work for that company, are you doing your job ethically? Not only are you doing your job ethically, are you giving the company their 8 hours? Or are you on, you know, online half the day doing stuff that has nothing to do with work? Not only that, but when you're interacting with whoever you have to interact with to do your job that you're doing as you work for another company, you know, it was just interesting to me. You know, we were talking about all these different things, and the women who are in this industry who also own their own company, and she was kind of saying how she wanted to be different than not only the women but the men too. You know, I thought it was interesting. It's very interesting. And if, you know, I want to know what, I guess, ethics looks like for you in your company. So, and you don't have to necessarily say what you do for a living, you know, at all, but I'm just curious about what ethics looks like for you. Okay, so I'll give you a good example. I've shared with you guys before when I did Funeral Chronicles. And of course, I know those videos are down now, but I shared with you guys before a story about this woman whose boyfriend died, and he left her a $30,000 insurance policy. He was a trucker, I think. And he left her a $30,000 insurance policy, and she had to make funeral arrangements for him. And when she went to the funeral home where I worked at, she made the arrangements, but when she got through, the funeral director, which was also the owner of the funeral home, she like literally had less than $1 left. He like spent that whole $30,000 on that funeral. And I've said this before, and this is something his father used to say, is that you still have to live. You know, after the funeral is over, you still have to live. You still have a mortgage to pay. You still have, you know, gas to buy, insurance to pay. You still have things you have to do. And especially if the person didn't leave enough insurance to bury them, and to pay off the mortgage, and to pay whatever it is that their income contributed to the household, then it doesn't make any sense fiscally for you to spend the whole insurance amount on a funeral. And it certainly didn't make any sense for her to do that. So, in other words, it was unethical for the funeral director to do that. When people are poor, and if all they have is $30,000 worth of insurance, and, you know, they're a truck driver, you can pretty much rest assured that they're not rich. So they're, you know, they're poor, in other words. You don't do that. That's unethical. And the question is, well, ethical for whom, Kat? Ethical for the customer. So while it may be great for you as a, you know, funeral home owner, if the man only needed really a $5,000 funeral, and the other $25,000 could have been used towards, you know, whatever the family needed it for, you're using an extra $25,000, you know, to fund your trip to Bora Bora, You know, your first class ticket to Bora Bora. Well, yeah, that's great for you, but guess what? The next time that person has a death in their family, what they're gonna think about is how much money they spent on that last funeral. And even if the funeral was great, they're gonna also think about how much of that money they could have used for other things. The rent that came up, that person that passed away is no longer able to, you know, contribute to. All the different bills that came up that they could no longer pay as easily because that income was gone. And they're, you know, probably gonna look for another funeral home because it cost them too much. They may feel like they got swindled, you know, when they could have buried the person for less, but somehow they got in that room and spent more. Or, you know, I shared with you guys before, when I was in banking, I eventually had to leave banking because I felt like, I was in a neighborhood, and in banking, they call these neighborhoods certain things, but I was basically in a low-income neighborhood. And I had to basically get people to bet against their future with their house, with the equity in their house. And this is before the housing bubble burst. And I'm sure a lot of those people whose homes I wrote debt against may have lost their house because I had a goal to meet. I had a loan goal to meet. So even though ethically I knew, you know, on paper, these people might qualify for this debt, I knew realistically that if something happened, they're going to lose their house. But I had goals to meet. And so I knew that that wasn't the job for me because it didn't sit right with my spirit that that's what I had to do to make a living. And so that's, you know, why I ended up getting out of banking and going to do something else, you know. That's my question for you is what I guess in your job that you do now, or maybe in jobs that you've had past, what were the ethics that concerned you or bothered you, or that's currently concern you or bother you about your job? Are there any? I remember one time me and I called her the hypergamous saint. I try not to refer to her at all that way on my channel anymore because I don't know that she's still hypergamous. But I remember one time the last time we went to the strip club. I think this is our last and only time. But we went to the strip club and the girl, I think they just openly smoked weed. And she said something like, you know, and I think this is before she knew that I knew that she had been a stripper. And she said something about, you know, basically these girls got to be high to do this for a living. Like you got to be high on something to do this for a living or something. Like you can't do this sober or something. And it was like literally girls up on stage dancing. While they're dancing, they're trying to roll a blunt. Like simultaneously. Like just some old, you know, ghetto, you know, I'm going to get my dance on, but let me roll this blunt and hit that first kind of thing. You know, and so my question is, if you have a job that you have to be under the influence of something to do, like you can't be in your right mind to do it, then is that ethical work for you? And there are some dancers who, you know, I watch Soft White Underbelly. There's some people who do jobs like that they can do it without being under the influence of anything, without drinking, without getting high. They can just do it because they have a goal to accomplish and they're not drug addicted or anything. And I know that's an extreme case, taking like sex work versus, you know, corporate work, something like that. But that's just my question, you know, ethics in business. It's just something I'm curious about. You know, how we handle that, especially black-owned companies, especially black women-owned companies. You know, one of the things I've noticed or that I've talked about is how we as... Sarah done gave me these directions and she don't know that this road is closed. Oh, okay, no, never mind. The parallel road is open. I was like, how did she not know this? Ain't she supposed to know everything? But, you know, one thing I noticed about black-owned companies is, you know, people say buy black, buy from black-owned companies and, you know, keep the dollar in the community longer. And you go to black-owned companies But the service, and I'm not saying always, but the service sometimes is not the way it is if you go to another company, a non-Black owned company. So we feel this entitlement for our people to come to our companies, our Black owned companies. But do we give them more bang for their buck? Do we give them at least equal bang for their buck if they went to, as if they went to a company owned by someone else? You know, are we just as polite with them as we would be with a non-Black customer? Yeah, okay, so for instance, I go to a Black church. We don't really have white members, and if we do, I don't see them. The only time I really see white people there is if they're there because of some Black person. Like if I see a white man, he's there with a Black woman. If I see a white woman there, she has a half Taiwan son, something like that. And of course the daddy ain't around. That's the only time I really see white people at my church. When I do see them, or when I have seen them in times past, I used to be extra friendly to them and make them feel more welcome, because I know what it's like to be the only one of someone in a group of hundreds or thousands of someone else. I don't do that anymore. I don't go out of my way to make them feel more welcome or whatever, you know. But I'm just wondering, in my experiences, especially like say with beauticians lately, not the one I have now, but y'all remember I had to change, you know, the beauticians I had. But that's my, you know, question. Do you give good service? You tell people, you know, buy Black and buy from you, but do you give good customer service? Do you take care of your people, especially if you're charging a lot for a product, you know? You know, it's like you tell people to buy Black and patronize Black businesses, but I'm just curious, do Black businesses give the same energy to their patrons? I was looking at a video that another YouTuber had shared of some I don't know who these people are called, but these people that tell you how to live your life coaches, I think is what they're called. I think a lot of times people really just need to go to a certified therapist, someone like with a degree in psychology. And when I say a degree, I mean a licensed counselor, not, you know, somebody with a bachelor's degree in psychology. But they need to go to licensed therapists and work through their issues, is what I'm saying. But, you know, pay $10,000 for a day event or something, and they went to lunch or something, and, you know, they were talking about the way, the low value of a plate or something ridiculous, and I'm just like, who are these people? You know what I mean? Like, what? what we talking? As Jay-Z say, what we talking? What are we talking about here? You know, you see Black women willing to pay $10,000 to get, to me, just some ghetto nonsense. What are we giving our people? You know, why should they buy Black? What are you doing that's deserving of them buying Black other than you two being Black? Are you going to treat them just as well as you treat your non-Black customers? You know? You know, I live in the hood, and all the beauty shops, beauty supply stores are owned by, I think, Koreans, and they dominate that industry. Like I don't even think you can really get in that industry very easily at all without going through them. And if you do try to go through them and you're not Korean, the prices are gonna be different for you. This is what I do believe I understand about this, and I could be wrong. But we will go into their stores and buy, you know, that are in the hood, and buy whatever you need, your hair, whatever your supplies are that you need, and get treated like absolute crap. They'll talk to you like crap. You know, they'll accuse you of stealing. They'll do whatever. And that we still go in there to buy these things to make our hair look, you know, a certain way. And then, like, if we do see a Black woman that owns a similar type of business, maybe all she sells is hair, you know, maybe she doesn't sell all the other supplies that go with it, I'll see we as the same people going and rob those people, you know, just going and steal all the weave off the wall. Yeah, it's just crazy. Or people go in and try to open up businesses in Black communities. I'm talking about other Black people, and they'll come in and rob, or, you know, when the business is closed, come and break the windows out and come in and steal. And it's just, you know, it's like I kind of see why when people get money, they move out the hood. Because it's like you try to stay in the hood to, you know, reinvest and put money back in it and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, for why? Because they just ain't gonna get right. You know what I mean? Last night when Jerry and I went to the gym, she forgot her tennis shoes. So I was saying, well, you can wear mine, but y'all wear a size 10 wide, and she wears like a 7 or something. She's super skinny. I was like, or you can sit out here and, you know, text Carlos or something, her man. And she's like, oh, I'll sit out here. And I was like, well, actually, no. Come in and text him, because we in the hood. And I might come out here and you gone, the car gone, my whole life gone. Like, this too dangerous. Come on inside and play on the phone or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, I just hate that, you know. Again, ethics, you know. And I bring up ethics because to me, ethics and morality are very, you know, tied together. The two are interwoven. And, you know, when I was in undergrad and I took, economics was my major, there was a course I wanted to take called Ethics and Economics, but the years that I was there, it wasn't offered. But, you know, no matter what I'm taking, I always like to take an ethics course in it to, I don't know, it's just something that interests me, especially like in philosophy courses, things like that. And I've heard the question asked before too, can you discuss ethics and morality without referring to religion in any way, without referring to the 10 Commandments? How do you know something is wrong without it being religious? You know, is it, you know, is there a way to explain that? And there are, you know, I've read texts on these things, how you can explain why it's wrong to kill someone or to lie or to deceive or whatever, why it's ethically wrong or why it's immoral without tying it to the Bible or any other, you know, text or religious text. And I guess I'm just, oh, baby, you really riding my tail. You just came out of nowhere. But yeah, I'm just curious about how, when we have our own businesses, how we run them. I was listening to something about, oh, that is a beautiful house. Y'all, I'm driving by, when I used to walk when COVID was going on and we couldn't go to the gym. Yeah, let me move over because you're too close to my back. Yeah, you go ahead. When COVID first started and we used to walk, I'm passing by this house that I was walking by one time and I was recording with y'all and I was like, oh, y'all, it's a black woman and a white man living in this house, and they had a little biracial child. Yeah, I was like, girl, that's gonna be you one day. And I was like, yeah. But anyway, I was reading something about a black owned company, and there was some business practice they had that was so unethical. It was something about cleaning, the way they cleaned something just was not right. And it, you know, I think it was something I was listening to on YouTube, some kind of Reddit channel. And I was just like, it's certain things that make me never want to eat out again. You know, like the way they clean stuff that is not really clean. Like, I don't know. Or here's another question, maybe too, if you've never had an issue with ethics yourself in a company, what have you seen that you felt like was unethical at a company that you've witnessed yourself, like where you work, you've seen something unethical done, you know? Like another thing I saw in the funeral industry, there's something called PreMed, right? And it's where you basically pay for your funeral in advance. You pay for and plan your funeral in advance. So when you pass away, your funeral is paid for, it's planned. Nobody has to really wonder what it is you want. Oh, look at that beautiful white cat. Nobody has to really wonder what you want and worry about how to pay for it because you already did all that, right? And funeral homes make a lot of money off of those. The people who write the policies, because they're in fact insurance policies, make a lot of money off of those. And ethically, to me, they're not the best thing for the customer. The best thing for the customer is just to buy a life insurance plan. And to me, there's a workaround on it. So like a funeral home owner will tell you, well, it locks in the price. Like you plan your funeral, like this is what, 2022. Right now, a good funeral might cost $15,000, right? But let's say I die in 2068, you know, at 90 years old. A good funeral right now might cost $15,000. In 2068, a good funeral might cost $50,000. Well, I would save $35,000 by locking in the funeral price of today's market, market prices. That's what a funeral director would tell me, right? What I would say, as someone who knows the industry both ways, is that, or I could buy a high enough insurance policy with a face value that's high enough, higher than 35, higher than 50, that even if the funeral price did go up, by 2068, that whoever's planning my funeral could afford it either way. So the premiums that you pay on a pre-need are going to be way higher than what you pay on a regular policy. And there's a reason for that. Because you're paying, what you're really paying for, the insurance cost is very little. You're paying for administration. The person sold you that, they're making a lot of money off of you. Whoever signed off on it, they're making a lot of money off of you. The company that issued it, they're making money off of you. That's why it's easier just to get a life insurance policy than a pre-need, And then you write down. Siri interrupted me. I don't know which phone it is either. She's interrupting me. I guess it was the other one. But it's easier to do that, to just write your plans out or email them out, send them to people, and just buy more insurance. If you're paying $80 a month on a pre-need, and the pre-need is only, like, let's say $18,000, will cover an $18,000 funeral, $80 a month, if you got it at the same time you got that pre-need, you might have a $200,000 policy life insurance. And then your family can have some money to do something with when you pass, besides just paying for your funeral. So anyway, let me get off of here. And don't get me wrong, pre-needs are good if you're uninsurable, if you can't get insurance any other way because of Medicaid or Medicare or something like that. But to me, that's one of those issues of ethics where, it's a way for a company to make a lot of money, but it's not a way that's benefiting the customer. But, we screw people over in the name of capitalism or making money for the stockholder or whatever. So anyway, y'all let me know, your stories and what you've seen in the workplace. Bye, y'all.